And we are live. Our audio is being broadcast.
Better.
The audio should be there.
Stream started.
Check.
Check,
Matt, stop crossing them.
And I'm just going to double check on my phone to make sure that's good.
Double check on my phone.
Double check on my phone.
Forget about
Come on,
it.
knock on our door. We'll be waiting for you.
FBI, get
Brian, stop peeing on.
Gross.
I'm not. I'm peeing on my desk. Oh.
And then there's Maud.
That's why they make trucker buddies.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
You'd never have to
Just a
leave
guy
for
that
RPGs
rides with you.
or
It's like,
gaming
oh.
sessions or anything.
All right, looks like
It's
we're
the
good.
rules of the road.
It's the rules of the road. Roadhead. All right, I'm going to switch to...
That's a good way to start the cast.
That's a great way to start the cast. All right, let me see. Studio mode. Yep, we're good. So our video is now live. And we're good
Memorex.
to roll, baby. All right, let's get this thing going.
Let's roll some babies.
Welcome to the Lovecraft Tapes. I am Jeremy, your keeper of arcane lore, and we play Call of Cthulhu, a horror role-playing game based upon the fictional works of H.P. Lovecraft. Your investigators of the unknown were Brian as Jack Williams,
Were? but
Gabe as Roy McDonough,
My lawyers have advised me to not answer any of the following questions.
and Matt as Rocky Whiteside.
What Gabe didn't tell you is that I'm his lawyer, so you're welcome for that.
Nice. With special guest Zach as Carl Kolchak Jr.
The second longest living character in the game.
Still. All right,
I
well,
survived the guest shot.
yes, you
Jeremy
did.
lives forever.
You survived the guest shot and the money shot.
yeah. Well, we don't know yet. He's still finishing
Well,
it.
straight.
I was gonna say the money shot was this awesome T-shirt that I got from the crew.
Nice.
But
Well deserved.
Well deserved. All right, welcome, players. Tonight we will be answering listener-submitted questions regarding our recently completed scenario, Chapter 9, Leapfrog. Spoiler alert, we will be discussing all the nitty-gritty details of this adventure, so if you haven't listened yet, I highly recommend you go back to episode 81 and start there.
Okay.
I vow to give a spoiler-free questionnaire here. I will not answer any questions that involve spoilers.
Nice.
Or free.
you're not supposed to listen to these in reverse order.
I just hit the shuffle button and it makes things more interesting.
Yeah, that's not a button.
That's no button.
I listened to chapter 3. Is that applicable
That's
here?
absolutely applicable. Absolutely. All right, before we begin, we do need to thank our current patrons, as of this recording, who have contributed to the podcast via patreon.com/lovecrafttapes. Your monetary support has helped pay for hosting, editing software, music, sound effects, and other costs associated with production, including Brian's vasectomy. All right, and those patrons are... Let's
What?
get 'em rolling here. Students at Miskatonic.
I was in your bedroom last night and just did a little snipping.
Little snip, snip. Students at Miskatonic include Alexandra Kroska, Bifford, Dom Driver, DW, Eric Setterberg, Gregory Schumacher, Holden Omans, Hoser_21, Jeffrey Young, Manda McCalla, Oystein Bowler, Ravens in the Attic, Rolling Boxcars, and Snow. Our professor,
Informa. Oh, sorry.
Informa. Professors at Miskatonic include Anthony Imes, Brittany Davis, Brownie Davis, CP, Corrine, Daniel Daniel Capron, Daniel Hissey, David Winterman, Davinia Von Zerovich, Dom Driver, Eric Phillips, Eric Miles, Eric Zane, Frank Delventhal, Jefferson Bell, Jeremy Griffith, John Imre, John May, Lobster Johnson, Malambra 57, Mitch L, Olda
You can do it.
Olda Polkert,
Yes.
Quizzic, Sean, Snow, and Wouter Vermeyen.
You know, his job was a lot easier when you guys had nobody on Patreon.
I know, right?
I know it's but we
Just want to make a quick announcement to the staff. Whoever keeps trying to use the toaster oven to open a portal to the Nether Realms, please stop. It's not funny anymore.
And it
pretty
burns
funny.
my toast.
Our investigators of the unknown are Chris Parker, Elizabeth Grieve, Jeff Berry, and Madeline Turnipseed. Mystics of the occult include Barry Robison, Geordie Rose, and Snecromancer. And our 2 cultists of the Starry Wisdom are Ravens in the Attic and the Demir Lobotomist. And yes, actually, there was Ravens in the Attic. Switch gears, which is cool. Love you. Still love you. And finally, our old one in Riley is Zachary Harley. I don't know who that guy is.
What's up, man?
No idea who that is. So, but thanks, guys.
Weird, though.
Thank you, patrons, for making this podcast possible. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
And Brian is in the mail.
Yep.
Yep.
Good night.
He's in the mail.
I've sent a locket of my hair to all of you.
Are we going to
We're
send a
not
piece of
telling
hair or Brian to everybody too?
Absolutely.
Not hair though.
His short and curlies.
See, the thing is with the hairs, we're not telling you where the hair is from. It
Right.
makes
We're
it
all
more fun
bald,
that
so
way.
figure it out. Now, dear investigators, we recap Chapter 9, Leapfrog. Previously on the Lovecraft tapes. Agents Jack Whiteside and Roy Arroyo, with the assistance of Roy's brother Rocky and his able-bodied manservant Declan McDonough, don't quite foil the plan of cultists to use Dan Williams in order to open a portal on Tristan da Cunha, through which the Old Ones may emerge to wreak havoc on our world. In fact, they are narrowly saved when an unknown entity steps in at the moment of their destruction, playing a kind of shell game with their souls, swapping them to other bodies. So it is, Jack wakes up in Dan's body on yet another island, where he meets prisoner Carl Kolchak Jr. Together, they buddy cop their way out of the cultist encampment to a nearby town, where they join forces with Stephen Crumpet, Master Thespian, and skillful Raconteur. Meanwhile, Roy is trapped in Declan's body, Rocky is trapped in Jack's body, and both are trapped on a ghost ship full of zombies. Somehow they manage to avoid being eaten alive while uncovering clues about the nature of the vessel. Our actors all arrive simultaneously on the shoreline of the coastal town, where all hell breaks loose and they must fight for their very lives against the hordes of evil. As you do.
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 Except they never did figure out the beer bottles.
Yeah.
It's true.
The beer can pyramid remains a mystery to
Well,
this
we
day.
can get into that too as we go, because now we're going to get into the questions. And I'm going to open up the Q&A spreadsheet here. So what we're going to do is I have a bunch of questions from a bunch of folks. So we'll get those going here. And also for anyone who is watching us live on YouTube, if there is anybody, feel free to pop into the chat and ask us more questions, and we'll get to that.
And if there's anybody washing us, thank you.
Yeah, is anybody watching us?
Sponge baths for everyone.
So I'm going to go through and I'll do a few questions from our listeners. And then we're going to switch gears because I know you guys have some questions as well for the rest of the team. What I found interesting about the listener submitted questions this time around was there was a lot around the same concept. So,
oh, good.
This will make
we did a bad job.
No.
What the hell were you guys doing?
No. It's like the same questions popped up on their minds, right? The same themes.
Good.
So you'll see a bit of some theme stuff here. Okay, so from Sam Hovey, he says, I guess it's he or she, do you have session zeros before each chapter or just wing it? Loving all the work you put into the show. And
that's this.
Yeah. Well, this is we don't really have a session zero per se. We do.
Who's Percy?
Percy. We do a little bit of prep work and we do a little bit of one-on-one setup, I guess, and collaboration, but it's kind of minimal. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually pre-chapter stuff is like character development where we roll to add to our skills or discuss if we, develop and resolve phobias, anything like that. There's never anything super story intensive that you guys never get to see.
I think us as players that we enjoy that because we like the surprise just as much as anybody else. I have questions for myself, for everybody here about this that I don't get.
All of Brian's questions are for himself because he's just that kind
he doesn't
of
get
person.
it. Yeah.
I have
Brian,
a question
Matt,
for
and
me.
I-
How great am I? Answer: amazing.
I actually
Well, thank you.
I enjoyed not doing a session 0 either, other than with kind of Jeremy and talking about the character or whatnot. So that
Yeah.
literally I think, a surprise to all of all
Yeah.
of you as I met you. So it was a nice being able to actually role play and not like, oh well, we know that you have this skill and could you do this, and
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
That was
metagaming
fun.
side.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Brian, Matt, and I always get lunch around the start and try and collude against Brian or Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we try.
Yeah, we
It never
do.
works.
It doesn't
Okay, what
seem
we need to
work
do
very
this
well.
time, guys?
We need to
We're
not
gonna-
roll so shitty. Okay? Okay, break.
We're gonna make him make us live forever.
That's not a good plan.
It's not. It never works
Yeah, and
because we always forget.
and to the sort of the flip side of that coin is my goal is, well, it's a twofold goal, obviously, because obviously I want to be able to write something that entertains the listening audience, but I really want to catch these guys off guard. So, I want something that's going to be surprising and make them think and make them get out of their comfort zone, and as well as be entertaining to the audience. So that's about the extent of the session 0 crap.
I also want to catch everyone off guard.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that mystery goes. I think it's very useful, particularly in our setting where it's not like live or die every 2 seconds. Like we're having some fun and we throw caution in the wind quite a lot just to get some entertainment value out of this.
Yeah.
And, I think that works pretty well. All right, moving on. From Madeline Turnipseed, there were a lot of different ways that the body switching could have gone with who had what memories and knowledge and all that. What did you decide, or why did you decide to do it the way that you did? Mm-hmm. And I think it boiled down to how Tristan da Cunha ended up, and like who went in the water and who touched who and that sort of thing. And so Jack was the one who basically, you pushed Dan into the water, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that made total sense to do that swapperoo. Then on top of that, I thought it would be really funny to put Roy into Declan, because there was already some friction between those characters anyways, and I thought, well, this will get Gabe into a different mindset or whatever.
Yeah.
And then sort of like Jack's
Smokers
body
coughs
was,
and Nick ribs.
yeah, and then Jack's body was the one left over, except for Roy, and it would be. I thought it would be too cliche or too trite for Rocky to be in Roy's body. To me, that just made not very much sense.
Brother to brother.
Yeah, it would have been like
Soul to soul.
Yeah, it just kind of wouldn't work. Plus, I thought there'd be a really cool dynamic between Declan's sort of unspoken love for Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could have been a weird thing.
Oh yeah.
So I was tying all that crap into the same ball of wax, and then but that obviously left me with a conundrum, and that was that Roy's body was odd man out. So I'm like, well, certainly Declan got into Roy's body, but where did that end up? And that's where I came up with the concept of, well, he's dead.
Zombies.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim, and his body was found by fishing trawlers, and just like all that sort of fell into place. And once you started playing that domino game, you're swapping people out, then it kind of the story just sort of fell into place too. So
Look how happy Roy is.
Declan could not handle the pressure that is Roy's life.
yeah,
All
I
11, 10 kids.
yeah, yeah. Oh shit,
Why are you sighing? That's like a good thing.
that's right.
We're thinning the herd.
That's just
Hey,
math,
they like
baby.
pudding.
Well, it's supposed to be the strong survive, right? If he was
Right?
stronger.
All right, so let's do a couple more, and then we'll move on to you guys. Devin wants to know, what went into the choice on who took over what body? Was it simply random or something else? So we kind of answered that.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of the same sort of theme. Totally not random.
He rolled dice.
Yes, I totally rolled dice. But
All
it wasn't
random.
random.
Answered differently for each question. That's similar.
Here's a similar question, but a little more in depth. Eric Phillips asks, how did you approach updating the character stats when the characters merged? Did you do so? Did doing so produce any weakness for the investigators? And so I did the merging, and I sort of like very quickly went over and did what I thought would be a blend of the two characters. And for the most part, what I tried to do was, if I would take a stat and whoever had the better stat, I gave them the better stat.
Yeah.
So if Roy was weak in, I don't know, he wasn't
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Swim,
Shooting.
but Declan was good at it. Then he got the better skill.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I did it. Unless it sort of didn't make sense, like if it was a physical thing, then that makes sense. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
So, but if it was a knowledge thing, then I tried to like make it a blend a little bit more without overstating or overweighting the character to the point that they're just like crazy good about everything. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of it. I don't think it produced any weakness other than the sort of unfamiliarity with the body. So they had to go through that 48-hour period once they woke up to start to get their sea legs under them. So I built that in, and also there's I think the detriments were so obvious that like these guys are going to have to deal with being in these bodies, and all that complicates. Like for instance, when Jack tried to call the FBI, they couldn't recognize his voice pattern.
Yep.
Because he's in a different body. So there were a lot more detriments, I thought, than just beyond the skill sets and the stats.
Yeah.
So
that was tough because I kept half the time talking normal and half the time talking like Jack. So
yeah, but yeah, you were like Jack, but but it was I think too that strategy gave me the desired effect, because then you were super frustrated when you were trying to contact the FBI, and that's a natural character reaction, I thought.
Did you get that thing I sent you? If it's ticking, just let it go.
Just let it go, baby. All right, how about we do a round robin and each of you ask a question? So Brian, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, Zach.
You ask a question, and then I will ask you a question back.
Good. Me.
Okay.
No.
Brian,
Don't
start us off.
Reboot, dude.
Okay, I have one for Zach.
What do you have for me?
A question.
By the way, I love that you actually threw in the gag reel our impromptu don't have a commercial.com.
Yes, that was great.
Anyways, what you got for me?
What was your favorite part of the entire scenario?
Well, I mean, honestly, embracing the entire scenario, not just one episode.
Right.
Literally, and this is going to sound like us patting each other on the back, but I really like the chemistry your character and I had, walking through the adventure.
Just the characters.
Well, you and I, we hate each other, but no. Just like all of you guys all hate each other. No, really had a good time. That was actually my favorite part, that we actually clicked right away.
Yeah.
The characters clicked right away. You and I clicked right away. So I think it made Jeremy's job a lot easier than maybe another team that was going for a ship.
Yeah, that's my favorite part too.
But no, so that was actually a lot of fun. I mean, and that's inside the game. Outside, I've already said you guys are awesome. So inside the game, it's just fun to game with you guys.
Yeah, you fit right in. It was perfect. It was so nice.
I fit in that big hole that felt empty.
You fit in that chair that was you were.
Oh, the chair. Okay.
Nice. Well, I have a question for Brian that's similar.
Yes.
How did the presence of Carl Kolchak Jr. complicate Jack's actions?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Initially, I didn't know if he was put there, knowing my brother, Jeremy, if he was put there as a plant to test me, to test Dan Jack.
Like on math and stuff.
Right, and I'm horrible with that.
What's 2 + 2?
I just ran. But then when I saw that I was able to look into the stuff that he had, and he was actually a reporter, and he was trying to get the scoop, that he definitely needed to be an ally And from then on, I just treated him like all my trust had to be in him because I had nobody else there.
I actually felt that within the game too. It was it never felt like an NPC. It never felt like somebody on the outside.
Right.
Granted, I would have loved to have played a bad guy against all of you. That would have been very cool because I love playing bad guys too in other games that I've been involved with over the years. But no, I actually loved being an ally to you guys. Not that I helped all that much, but at least somebody from the outside that could have been like, well, okay, I saved your life. But beyond that, you know. But no, that was really cool that you immediately trusted and treated me like a real character, and you know that was there to help.
Yep. Yeah. Because when I first went in, I was like, I might have to rough this guy up just to get the truth. You know what I mean?
You could have also jetted from the whole thing and just like, I'm out. You know, screw that guy.
Yep. I could have just gone on my own, but
those damn morals.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, moving on. Matt, what do you got for a question?
All right. Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Did you enjoy the dynamic swap and running multiple sets of 2 and 2 characters instead of the big group? And do you think that opens up the future to possibilities of having more differently sized group episodes, including maybe like a solo here and there in the future?
Yeah, I was
asking on Liz's rehab.
He rolls bad.
Yeah.
But
so the answer to to your first question is I did enjoy it to a certain extent. I had trepidation big time because there's a certain dynamic we have when we have all of us together. Now, I knew that Zach's presence was going to throw that off slightly, right? But I wasn't sure in what way. So my big thing was, how are we going to make each episode as entertaining with just me and 2 investigators and vice versa? You know, like, and to have that swap. As it turns out, there were good and bad to it. So there was like when Roy and Rocky and I did the first one, it really clicked, right? When Carl and Jack and I did ours, we got off to a rocky start the very first episode.
I prefer to be called Dan.
Yeah, Dan, Jack Dan. So it was I think that was a case of just sort of getting to know.
We had to build chemistry
of the character. Yeah. And I had to find the sort of the humor in it. Like it was sort of inherent in the ghost ship thing, but you know, Jack had to deal with Dan's body and also
he had to like develop a new character basically.
Be Dan. You know,
that first one was basically just the teaser, the intro. Yeah. It was all about Dan, and then like finding out, hey, there's going to be this guest star coming on next episode, and teasing that a little bit. So you know, it worked.
It worked. Eventually, it totally worked, but I think it was an experiment of sorts, and I don't know that necessarily sets the stage. It was kind of cool. I know Chris Parker mentioned that he sort of enjoyed the dynamics, and I think he's got a question here coming up on that. But so I enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily know that's going to set the stage for future groupings like that. We'll see.
I'm going off on my own, guys.
We'll see. Okay, then I've got a question for you, Matt. Never split the party, right? Matt, in what ways has Rocky's perception of Roy changed after their brotherly adventures aboard the boats?
You better say not at all.
And he left you to die. Just saying.
Yeah.
This is Rocky's perception, not Matt's.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he always had certain preconceived notions on what Roy was like, especially because he left pretty early on. And all he really had were his memories from childhood, and as it's been shown, he clearly was not treated the nicest in the family when he was a kid. So there was definitely a lot of trepidation to begin with, and there was always almost a little bit of a fuck you in there from him. Like, oh, I have to go in and I have to save him. And now I have to drag him with me wherever I go, and I have to try and keep him out of trouble, and I have to try and stop him from doing this, and I have to keep him from doing that. And I think there's a little bit of traction there starting. There's not a whole lot, but there were definitely some very, very small moments where there might have been a little bit of, okay, maybe this isn't, maybe he is actually capable of doing something other than making rude remarks.
Nice. Perfect. That's exactly what I thought.
Better.
So.
Mom likes me better.
Gabe, do you got a question for one of us?
Sure. I'll ask one for Matt because I gotta blast him again.
Okay.
First of all, in response to Brian's remarks or somebody, why was our group way better than their group? Because we're cooler.
Yeah,
and then,
that's true.
All right, cool. And then secondly, I have. I could have gone on for hours, but was there anything in the Hollywood backlot fantasy that you wish you could have gotten to before we were whisked away?
I honestly was kind of hoping that we would run into. I wanted to do like a Mission Impossible, like crazy ass Hollywood like stunt sequence. Like if we would have like busted into like the back, like this middle of a scene of like a big action movie as we were trying to escape. I was thinking that really cool to see.
Oh, your lights went out.
Yeah.
He's evil. His eyes start glowing.
Yeah.
I won't lie. I was actually hoping that when you guys went to Hollywood, it was going to harken back to the original, or at least the last group, and that maybe you could meet all of the old characters and have to interact with them, knowing that they're not real, but they're basically there to test you. But that would have been a cool callback to the last series or whatever we're going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
You're Belinda.
I could have gone on for hours in the Hollywood backlot.
Yeah, there was a lot of potential there.
I'm not even treating this like Call of Cthulhu anymore. Now it's just like a character study.
Well, speaking
but
of which,
is the character on you or on somebody else?
Not of me. Roy's not based on me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Sure.
Well, speaking of Roy, Gabe, I have a question for you. Once upon a time, Roy nearly sacrificed himself for the good of the party. But in Chapter 9, he seemed to value his own life more than his brother's. How has your steady sanity loss over the last few chapters changed Roy's ingrained character traits, and how long before he totally loses it?
Well, I'd like to start by saying that he's pretty much already totally lost it. I have probably lost more sanity than all of the other players combined, and I don't think that that's a coincidence. He does a lot of stupid things that when I'm making the calls, losing sanity is the last thing in the back of my head. But I definitely think that he is starting to value his self-preservation more. But I also think that the regard for family is still there, and it's not a familial family. It's a chosen family.
Ooh.
With the inner circle of Roy. And Rocky just ain't there yet. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's potential. He could be there, but he's not there yet.
All right. Awesome. Zach, you got a question for us?
Actually, I do. Well, it's more for you, Jeremy, only because I've been wondering this, and in the back of my head, I didn't want to metagame this whatsoever.
Sure.
But there seemed to be a very similar naming technique for one of your NPCs that may or may not have connected to my character. A certain guy that ended up beheaded named Kojak.
Oh, yeah.
Was that potentially my father?
You mean Keijo?
Or Keijo, sorry. Keijo. But between the K... it just seemed very similar and take out a couple syllables.
It's funny because as I wrote that character, I was sort of concerned that I was leaning too far in that direction. It wasn't
it would have been
intentional.
a very soap opera.
Yeah,
but
it was
not
kind of
that would
like
have been bad.
Well, there is one thing, and I don't think anybody here has ever brought it up, and nobody who has listened has brought it up. But there was a certain thematic I was going for the entire season. Have you guys figured that out yet?
The Frying Dutchman from SpongeBob.
Screwing your family over?
No, it's very simple.
Oh.
It's very simple.
The
It's
stew?
It's not. Well, you're close, B.
Oh, the root. You're supposed to suck the root.
Suck the root.
Yeah.
Every single episode started with a letter.
Oh.
S.
Who'd you write the letter to?
Oh, cool.
So every single episode in Chapter 9
What does that
starts with
spell?
S. No, nothing. I was just like on this weird kick.
It spells.
I didn't realize it till I was like 4 episodes in. I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to do this S thing. And everything just is S. So a similar thing came up with naming characters. Cygnus, Keijo, Carl. I mean, they were all C's, and they were all sort of intertwined, and maybe they had something to do with cultists. But I guess if you like
Starts with a C.
get Freudian about it or
Okay.
something, C becomes before D. D Dagon.
I thought
so
C
C's
was
go
for
first.
cookie.
So
You spell Cygnus with a C.
yes, Cygnus is with a C. Yeah.
I
learning
thought it was like
everything every day.
PSY, and then it was.
No,
I honestly thought it was
this
S.
isn't a Bioware game, buddy.
Just like Rush. Cygnus X Rush.
PSYGN.
I only know how to spell things from Rush albums.
Nice. So it wasn't intentional, but there was like a sort of a nugget there because I knew that you guys would both be an asset to Jack.
Mehoff.
So Keijo and Carl were both.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were kind of dangling it out there that maybe like there was a connection and then just not through any fault of characters, but I never heard the name really until we left, and it was all in
Yeah.
the like no
Right.
real connection to the character. So I was like, I wonder if that was like implanted and should have like maybe come up and developed,
Nope.
but the name just seemed very familiar.
Yeah.
Papa?
And that's it exactly. It was just
Because I did,
that's-
you even
Is that
alluded to
you,
it that I
Papa?
lost the father at some point. So.
right.
Dada.
And not lost as in he died, but lost as in I couldn't find him.
Right.
There he is.
Yes.
He's right where you left him.
All right. Well, I've got a question for you, Zach. What happens to Carl once he gets back to Chicago, and what is his next big story?
Actually, honestly, I've been writing a article based on the entire chapter that you guys just went. So I want to make it look like a news article. The only thing you'll see it when I finish it, but basically I'm going to have a bunch of big black rectangular shapes in the middle of it, basically to say they fucked my photos. You know, it's one of those, here's your camera, here's all your gear, it's all good. And by the time I got back to the States, it's, oh, no, really, you had no proof of any of this actually existing. So basically, just like all the, not that we're trying to touch on any other circumstance, but a certain reporter writing articles, basically, nobody's going to believe this, but here's the facts as they were. So I am actually working on that now, and hopefully I'll have it before you get to the next chapter. But no, that was actually kind of my goal, but I've been going back and re-listening to the chapters over and over so I can be like, what did Carl really know? Because I don't want to touch on something that I didn't actually be aware of.
Yeah.
Right.
The Carl cast.
So the next story hopefully is
Coral.
maybe if I get to the States and realize, like you alluded to the rest of the group, that it wasn't my phone call that got them there, it was actually the FBI call, which I still disbelieve. Roll for disbelief. But if I figure that out, that actually it had nothing to do with that, then I'm going to start wondering where this ship of naval ships came from, or where this fleet of naval ships came from, and start wondering what those specific letters might be that were on the side of the ship.
The letters were
Delta Golf were on there.
Delta Golf, yes, I love it.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, I think that would be his next article.
Very cool.
And actually further investigating the volcano.
Yeah, all right. I like it. All right, moving on. Madeline Turnipseed, Phil Luluhu. That's hard to say. And Chris Parker all had questions about Stephen Crumpet, so I'm going to just rattle these off.
Best.
Madeline says, Stephen Crumpet was an amazing asset to the party. I'm hoping to see more of him. What inspired his character? And then Phil Hulu says, who or what inspired Stephen Crumpet? And when you come up with a really good NPC, as Stephen was, how difficult is it to make sure that they don't take over the show from the player characters? So yeah, obviously Stephen was a direct inspiration from Stephen Toast, because I love Matt Berry. Who doesn't love Matt Berry?
Oh no, I do.
He's just an amazing character actor.
I'm more a fan of his cousin Boo Berry.
I'm not. That guy sucks.
Matt Booberry. That'll be the next guy. So yeah, that's the direct inspiration, and but more to the point, the character was presented because I felt Jack and Carl could probably use a hand, and I knew there was some sort of point of contact in Horta who would be helpful to them, and I really just kind of wanted to play something way over the top. And
yeah, that was
so
great.
I just kind of I knew that we had at least one rough session where things weren't quite melding. Our rhythm hadn't been cemented yet. And I felt the introduction of an off-the-cuff character could really help that, and just be silly and stupid and but still come out on top. And that's the inspiration for that guy.
And helicoptering. He's always wanted to.
And the thing was, I didn't care if they took over the show from the player characters, because I was having a fucking blast. So I don't care. What do I care? If it's fun for the listening audience, which I assumed it would be, then I'm all about playing it up to its maximum potential. And Chris Parker did ask, or said, can you comment on there being any future plans or possibilities to feature the return of Stephen Crumpet? And he asked that before I release the epilogue, so he has a better idea about that now. Stephen Crumpet is in the back, as with most NPCs are that we've introduced in the past, who are not part of their everyday lives. Like, who was your buddy? Who was Roy's buddy?
Petunia.
Not Petunia.
Bugsy?
Bugsy.
Really?
Yeah. Bugsy was a sort of a day-to-day guy. So that was a little more ingrained. But I don't see Stephen Crumpet being a regular guy. He might pop up once or twice, but we'll see.
Get in the comments if you want me to write a My Dinner with Stephen Crumpet between Roy and Stephen Crumpet, a 2-man play.
Pass the breadsticks. I don't know.
Make them garlic.
Make them garlic, baby. All right, we'll do a couple more, and then we'll get back to you guys. Eric Phillips asks for Brian.
Actually, can I ask a follow-up question on that? Only because it's very connected.
Yeah.
Was Steven whatever he is that when we first met him, or was the Steven we met different than really the Steven we met later on?
Well, what do you mean exactly? What do you mean later on?
Well, Steven that we met felt very normal-ish.
In his condo and all that, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Even
then
running
later on
across
the last
the roofs.
episode, he was basically a almost a god, pulling a bazooka out of his ass, literally. So was that the same entity, or was that two different?
Well, that is basically the Rashomon effect. So you guys all each have your perception of what you saw, and the truth is in the middle somewhere.
Or it's in the pudding.
That's not an answer, Jeremy.
It is.
Well, I only saw the one.
But and Chris Parker gets this perfectly. It's this is simply a construct of what you guys remember, and so that last episode was, and so whether or not you remember him coming in, swooping in, saving the day, that may or may not have happened at all.
I saw it, which makes him my hero.
So, yeah, and really, it was sort of like a god mechanism, right?
Because the way I almost look at it is, when the Phoenix took over Jean Grey's
Ex
position,
Machina.
I don't know.
Jean Grey was Jean Grey, but then Phoenix was Jean Grey, so that she could fit in with everybody else in the X-Men. So was Stephen Crumpet the weird guy that we met that just was very strange, and then later on an entity copied him because at least two of us really got along with him?
No.
Okay.
No. The answer is yes. Stephen Crumpet is Stephen Crumpet, the guy you met.
Okay.
And
I was wondering that too.
And really, whether or not he has any other powers or aspects.
Oh, that's a totally different. That's a story thing.
Right. Yep. The epilogue sort of touches on that.
Yeah,
but
touches
on
it
that. Doesn't. But it also absolves him of what happened with you guys in the last episode. Mm-hmm. So there's some gray area there, and you guys will have to figure out whether or not that was actual sanity loss on your part.
Yeah.
No. We'll see.
It was all real.
All right, Eric Phillips for Brian. Were there any nerves going into a smaller group with Zach since you haven't role played that much together?
I don't.
No pressure.
I don't usually get nervous for social stuff like that, where interaction with new people. I usually get nervous when it's all put on my shoulders to perform, and that's where my nerves were at. Coming into this, I had to. What the hell are you guys doing?
They're all nervous. That's how millennials express nervousness.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Gen Z, bro.
Okay, boomer.
Anyway, I was nervous to go into it alone, thinking it was just going to be me.
It almost
for the first 2 or 3 episodes, I didn't know when I would meet him, what role he would play. Is he going to be in one episode? You know what I mean? Am I doing this trying to entertain?
It almost helped that you were sick that one episode.
Well, he will run a scenario, and he'll make a statement, and then just sit there until I react. And he knows that it drives me crazy, but I'll eventually get to that reaction.
But it was almost nice that you were sick, because then it forced you almost not to talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In the real world. So it was Carl, you got to pick up the slack here a little bit and do some more of the talking. So we actually got to interchange more, so it wasn't all about you. Not that it's not all about you guys.
No,
you guys are the main cast,
that was fantastic.
But it really worked. It's taking the focus and kind of spreading it a little bit. But yeah, I was actually nervous too. I won't lie.
You can. We don't mind.
You can lie. That's fine. Sam Bifford asks, was there a real chance that they might not have gotten to the right spot for the quad bike? If they hadn't, what would have happened? So that was after Keijo had given you guys the diversion.
The North Stars.
Polaris.
Yeah, the whole
Polaris curl.
Yeah,
we went way too far into.
Bifford, if you watch the video of that particular thing, which I highly recommend you do not. Then you will see that those guys had a rough time, basically checking out the clues and making sense of them. So there was absolutely a chance that they could have gone in a completely different direction. I might have devised something to help them along, or I don't even know what. But thankfully,
Jeremy's just didn't want us beat, or at least me beat again and almost dead.
Yeah,
because that really killed the storyline.
It kind of did. Yeah, it was. Well, we do that. If a certain, because we ran across that they failed several attempts.
Yep.
That first escape attempt from the camp. So we kind of got a taste of what that would look like or be like, and it was kind of boring, honestly. From a storyline point, it was just kind of like, okay, but at least I got a little bit of a taste of it, and then I could go over the top with having Carl beat almost nearly to death. And that actually helped set up some dramatic tension between the different.
Absolutely, that actually I don't think it was unplanned, but that really actually helped ratchet up a little bit. That they did not want us to go, and that they were on the verge of either killing me or this was a test for Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all sort of worked out in the end. So them not finding the quad bike or the rest of the stuff. There probably would have been at that point. Well, what would have happened literally is they would have been recaptured. Carl probably would have been, if not killed directly, then made an example of during the ritual. So we would have gotten to that point to the ritual, because there's no way in hell that Rocky and Roy arriving on the boats would be able to get to the mountaintop in time,
right?
And sort of all that stuff that happened with Steven and the call of the FBI, none of that would have happened. There would have been no carpet bombing of the encampment up top later on. there might have been the coalition. Maybe that would have come later, but probably not. And actually, it would have ended almost the way that Tristan da Cunha did, the previous chapter, where these guys are once again, another portal is opened. We move on to the next one. So thankfully that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
I may have gotten back my body.
So.
And I honestly don't think you would have pulled any punches too. I mean, technically Jack really didn't know who I was. So if it would have been a test of Jack to do the ritual, and if I was a sacrifice or whatever, I think Jack would have went through with it, because you guys aren't metagamers. It would have been like, sorry, Jack, but you're screwed because we don't actually know who you are. So
yeah, I think knowing Jack, he probably would have been handed the knife to sacrifice you, and he probably would have taken his own life. I bet you anything that would have happened.
I think he would have been very hesitant about it, but it would have been
I'm right here.
Because then he would know that he wouldn't be the conduit anymore, and that he would prevent future things like that happening, I bet.
I would have hit the slow motion button and gone around and stabbed all the bad guys.
Exactly.
Bullet time.
Let's do one more, and then we'll go back to you guys real quick. We got about 15 minutes here if we're going to keep on time.
Cool.
Madeline Turnipseed asks for Zach. How much pre-planning were you involved with for the session, and did they drop you, or did they just drop you in with your character?
Jeremy can attest to this. I presented an interesting idea for a character because I absolutely love that character concept because I'm a huge fan. But literally, you really didn't tell me anything other than, boom, you're on the island and now you're chained. You got captured and you're chained up because you were investigating something you basically shouldn't have. I had no idea who the characters were in game. I didn't have any real knowledge in game. I didn't even really know who I was investigating. It was literally I was going to investigate, and then I got captured and chained up, and that's when I got found.
Which was to an episode of the show before,
because it was also no insider information on my part either to metagame at all. And I won't lie, I was really there's a couple times I wanted to metagame and be like, dude, the clue said this from Keijo. But I was really trying to not do that because it's table talk.
Yeah, that's exactly.
We're not at a table though.
So yeah, Zach is absolutely right. We did. The only thing I did was I vetted him to a certain extent to make sure that there were going to be no problems that were obvious right from the get go. And then once he knew his shit. So
I'm not a psychopath, and I'm not just here to kill people.
Yeah, no.
The IRS will be calling you.
That's
Laura's job.
Like Brian said previously, it was a perfect fit. So
yep.
And I too am a huge fan of the Night Stalker, and so that made perfect sense to me. And I just love the idea of having this investigative reporter as part of this. So that was a lot of fun. Okay, moving on. Brian, you got a question for the group? Anybody in the group?
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yep.
What?
Why can't the players
have fun?
No, we can have fun.
Ask him why you were allowed to watch our scenarios.
Meaning Matt and Gabe and myself. Why can't we listen to the Lovecraft tales?
Because there is some insider information there that I want.
Exactly. Tell me about the Lovecraft tales.
That I want.
After dark.
This is a bonus and a benefit to the patrons. So the Lovecraft tale bonuses are inside information for the patrons specifically. They help with their understanding, the patrons' understanding of like what might be going on behind the scenes, which I think they appreciate because they can't act on it, but you could, and it would color your decisions. Now I
just pay to play.
Yeah, I actually kicked them off the patron because they were supporters, and I said, "You're out of here." So, anyways, the only way for me to keep that sort of secret and allow the patrons to read that stuff was to do it that way. And I did sort of make a mistake. Full transparency, the epilogue contained a little bit more inside information I had meant to reserve for the patrons. But as part of the epilogue, I had to release it to the public. So there's some that was a bit of a misstep on my part, and hopefully
it's ours again. Now.
Exactly. So I should have done that slightly differently, but what are you
You'll
gonna
have to pry the epilogue.
So Zach, I'll be sending you that thing so you can get me the recordings of the tales.
Yeah.
We're no longer allowed to even listen to the show itself.
Well, yeah. Anyways,
spoiler.
Matt, you got a question for us? Anybody?
Yeah, for Zach, Gabe, and Brian. Did you or were you
Yes, we
tempted
love you.
to
No, I do
tempted to
not.
listen to the other duos episodes, or did you like hold off until it was safe to do so, or were you tempted to either listen to them in between recordings, or did you like watch them live?
I did not watch them live. For me personally, I started to, and then I'm like, no, it's giving me too much information, so I stopped. But I did listen to it when the episodes came out.
I tried to watch them. I think I missed the first one, but I think it was on the second one. I mean, I'm not trying to be egotistic. I think I'm a pretty good role player, so I can ignore anything you guys are doing. But it was I enjoy watching you guys work, so that was actually why I wanted to watch it, not to gain game information.
Mm-hmm. So that meeting that you and I had, Zach, really didn't mean anything. Oh,
remember just the root. Put it in your mouth.
Suck.
Stick it in your mouth and suck it.
All right, Gabe. How about
Let
you?
me
You got
put
a
it
question?
this way. Let me put it this way. I've been able to live this long for a reason.
Mhm. All the roots, baby. All right, Gabe. You got a question?
me a
for us?
question?
Yep.
Yeah, I got a question.
Shoot.
I was gonna ask that exact question that Matt just asked, so now I gotta think of another one on the spot. My question is for Jeremy. Remember when I was looking through all the rooms on the ship, every single room?
Yeah.
And I stopped?
Yeah.
Was there anything cool that I could have found if I had looked through every single room? Also, as a byproduct, what's up with that pyramid that never got explained?
Or the UV light.
But honestly, everything was. I wanted it to be sort of a haunted house, so each room was just simply set up to be a distraction of some sort. I think there may have been one or two rooms where there was actual danger, and there may have been one room that had like some information that you found later on, anyways. So it could have been just like found a little bit earlier. So I just sort of came up with some strange shit that would make you freak out slightly. I didn't want you to go insane, but there had to be like one or two things that were like, well, fuck, that's weird, and maybe unnerve you a bit. That's kind of it. I just went for the haunted house deal.
I see.
Yeah, it was just fun, and I kind of wanted you to go more room to room because I was like, I have this list of like 10 rooms that I'm going to unleash on him. And
I could have kept going, but Matt was getting legitimately angry about it.
I was very much legitimately getting pissed off that he was just going room to room. And I want to look at this room, and I want to open this, and go to the next room, and open this.
It's called investigating, Matt. Look into it.
More like shit investigating.
Exactly, yeah. I kind of did a dungeon mentality. Yep. All right, Zach, you got a question for us?
I have a question, but it's not exactly for the chapter. I have a question that maybe everybody's wondering here, and I don't think it's actually been asked. How much are you guys related to your the mentality of your characters in real life? And B, do you guys ever want to reverse roles? Like Jeremy, do you enjoy gaming? Do any of you guys like to run games? Like, do you guys ever want to swap your roles?
I want to swap all the time.
Yeah.
Swap
Put the key in the basket.
We swing a lot.
Yeah. Well, to answer your second part of the question,
you swing a bit less.
I do. I rather enjoy the role playing aspect of it, and of course, the Halloween episode or the Halloween episodes, I should say, are a lot of fun for me. So I get to kick back and just play the character. So I enjoy both of that. But I don't think I have OCD, but I'm pretty dang close. And so Gabe I'm pretty anal. I totally admit that. So I'm very detail oriented, and I plan and plan and plan and plan. And so to me, this is sort of second nature now, is creating these, adventures and scenarios and trying to come up with everything. So
He wakes up in the middle of the night.
I do. Well, I told you. I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, we're gonna do this in about 3 hours. So let's just do that.
Yeah. How do you relate to your character, Jeremy? That was half of the question.
Which one?
The old lady.
Well, what about the rest of you guys, though?
I've definitely mentioned before that Roy is a stone cold Gabe DiCenzo. It's me turned up to 11. It's definitely
I'd say you're probably at a 3 or 4, and he is definitely at an 11.
yeah. It's me without a filter. That's for sure. Without being checked and balanced. And I feel like I'm very similar to Jeremy in how I plan things out. We're very similar people where we're just very meticulous in how we do things. And when I play with friends, I usually do run the campaigns. I love to do it. Life is just really busy. So I would love to run a campaign for the show, but would have to be like, if like I would have to start writing like the Easter show now would be how much time I would have to put into it.
Because honestly, Gabe, you strike me as an off-the-cuff kind of person, but that's more, I think, the character than you. So it's nice to hear that you're almost completely reversed of your character.
Almost.
Because your character has no planning capability whatsoever. It's like there's a shiny object and you just go.
Yeah, I don't. That's the portion of Roy that I really differentiated from myself. But I definitely feel like in real life I am like blunt like Roy is in that aspect. So I took some and I gave some with creating him.
See, and to me, and please, Matt, let me know if I'm wrong. Your characters always seem to be very meticulous, very meticulous. Are you in real life like your characters? Because I got a feeling you're not. I mean, not in a negative way. I'm just
roasting
saying, they're so like all the characters I've heard you play. None of them have been like just slapdash, But I can't tell if that's an art role playing thing or is that a you thing.
It's definitely to a degree where it's kind of like Gabe with Roy, where I do in real life. I am I'm like somewhat in the middle when it comes to structure. I like to have like an outline of things, and then I kind of like to fill in on the fly as I go the rest of the way. With my characters, so far I haven't based them off of me so much as I've kind of picked an archetype, I guess you could say, and spun it out from there. Like Dan was the big, the big heroic soldier guy. Detox was the criminal amongst a couple of lawmen, and Rocky was the anti-Arroyo.
No, it totally makes sense. I think your fans have probably always wondered if Matt matches those characters, because those characters almost always have a plan.
He means the Dyson fan that's by you.
Or anything else. They always seem to have a very meticulous plan laid out, and you just don't strike me as the person that has to plan their life out that much.
Like I said, I like to have a general idea of where I'm going, but I don't like to... I'm not the kind of person that has like a trip itinerary where it says I'm getting up at 7 and it's 7:05. I'm brushing my teeth.
That's me.
7:10.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's Jeremy. We have enough of that around here already.
Now my itinerary for my upcoming vacation.
To me, from the outside, after playing with you guys, Brian's the only one that feels like their characters like their real personality. Am I wrong
I always
on that?
put my personality into my characters. I can't help it.
Because you almost seem identical in and out of character.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know either.
I try not to do it because I hate myself.
Oh, stop it.
That just makes you a good bad guy.
Hey.
There you go.
Hey. We love you.
Who needs a hug? All right, let's move on, guys. Chris Parker says, you guys played around with the format this chapter in really neat ways, like retrospective fill-in-the-gaps roleplay and splitting the party with alternating sessions. What did you guys learn from that change of pace, and what did you like about each style? This is interesting.
Can I just say that maybe Jeremy should have given us the same first line for all of our descriptions? Because that was
we were struggling by the end
while we were gaming.
It's supposed to be funny for the audience, but Brian blew it. So.
It was
hilarious.
Just like tonight.
Exactly. It was supposed to be just fucking hilarious. Anyways, so what did you guys learn from that change of pace, and what did you like about each style?
Well, I just learned that we aren't apparently funny, according to Jeremy.
You people are terrible.
It happens.
I think it really kind of helped push my role-playing skills, because when you have a more sizable group, you definitely have those peaks and valleys where there are moments where you can just kind of lean back and let things happen. But when you're in that smaller setting where it's just, you and one other person, you really have to be on a lot more. You have to be on your toes, and you have to be willing to move and react a lot sooner. Whereas again, when it's all of us, I don't mind sitting back every now and then and just kind of letting things play out.
Just so you can be right and be like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I live for the "I told you so"s, especially when it's Rocky going "I told you so" to Roy,
which
That's
he
what
never
brothers
is
are all
correct.
about.
So I don't. He just says that when he's wrong.
I took the most notes ever on this scenario that I've ever taken.
I took 0 notes.
Because
I'll never learn that.
I realized
Evidently, you guys didn't
I
get to
can't say,
talk.
what did they say? To everybody else.
Your group didn't get to talk. We had a really good set of clues given to us, and we both realized that they were clues, and we neither jotted it down. But so by the time we got to the clue, we were like, "You mentioned this." We forgot what you said, though.
It was in the intro. We were
We were
talking, making faces.
And we were all about it. We were like, "That totally, yep, we're gonna remember that in 30 minutes from now," and we totally did not.
See,
Hilarious
he made
threw
us
me off.
find all our own clues, so we were just like, let's try that deck again.
Have we looked over here yet? No. Well, how about this?
Over there.
And we were like back and forth with rolls, like with the tracking rolls. I'm like, I'm going to try this. And then I failed. So Gabe was like, no, let me show you how it's done. And then he would fail too. And we're both just like, oh.
Yeah, we were like, oh, well, I think
It's
it's
nighttime
been
at
long
Matt's
enough for me to track it again.
I did
Doing
think it
it
was
definitely.
I did think it was a cool way though to end it with a you're questioning about what occurred and
Yes.
then role playing that. That's always an interesting way to do it. I kind of look at it. I was a huge White Wolf fan, and somebody at one point wrote Highlander rules for White Wolf, and that was kind of that whole thing. Like think back 50 years, 100 years, whatever, and then do a flashback, and then tell the story and make it connect to the current story. And that was always very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I think first time doing it, I think it was done really well.
It was cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
All right.
we struggled a lot with the clues that he attempted to give to us because just rolled so poorly.
Well, clues are tough. I think among all of you, I think Zach probably was the one who was most capable, because he's had a lot of role playing experience in this regard, and I just don't think. And again, that's because we're also entertainment, and so we're not overly consumed by the details. At least the investigators aren't, and so. I went back and I looked at the wiki, for instance, and chapter 8 they did some pretty good notes. Chapter 9, 0,
None.
0 notes. So I was like, well, yeah, this is that's what's going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. I reverted to actually writing stuff down.
Here's the
next to me
thing.
because we didn't do a wiki.
I've never taken notes. that any of those notes that you're attributing as me, and I know Matt has in the past, but I feel like he's fallen off, and I'm gonna blame myself.
Yeah. I can't believe him.
Brian does most of the notes all the time.
Well, since Matt failed all of his roles, he shouldn't have
There you
put
go.
any clues in.
See?
This should have been all Roy.
Yeah,
this is
you're
Roy's
right.
fault.
So in the next scenario, we all need raging clues.
Hey, Roy doesn't forget things.
All right.
Until you,
It would be out of character for Roy to take notes because he'd just be like, "I'll remember this one. I don't need to write things down."
All right, let's blaze through a few more of these. We're coming up on the last 5 or so. BCP says, so Chapter 9 was crazy, what with the black goo and the dead, not dead stuff. But I am worried. How much are you going to X-Files, the Lovecraft tapes? Because I don't like what the writers did to the characters on that show. So, X-Files eventually became a kind of pastiche of itself. But I love that concept. I mean, I love Monster of the Week. I love The Night Stalker. I love X-Files. I like Millennium. So
Supernatural.
yeah. I mean, I'm not using that as a direct template or anything, but at the same token, I mean, we're an episodic series. We have chapters and we have limited adventures and so. But maybe BCP is asking, am I going to try to keep this arc going? And I will lay my cards on the table tonight for everybody who's listening. Chris, hi. Basically, I'm using this as a way to reset the game board because the portals have been closed. Mm-hmm. The cultists have been thwarted. The investigators are now much more comfortable in their newfound bodies. Where they go from here is up to them. It's their role-playing. However, they are now part of Delta Green. And so we're going to enter into a new way of going at these scenarios. And it's going to be... And Chris just asked, are you guys planning on using Delta Green just as a set dressing, or are you guys going to add in some mechanics like assets or whatnot? Honestly, it's probably going to be set dressing because I don't necessarily want to get into the mechanics of Delta Green. I do have those rules, and I am looking at them to see if there's anything useful, but I don't want to change the mechanic of the game because it's not really our style. And we've been doing fine just the way it is. But it's more along the lines of it's an opportunity to use Delta Green and the Secret Society to launch these guys in their current form to other scenarios that maybe are a slightly different flavor. And I'm kind of using this as ballast to get rid of the Dan Williams and the Samantha Blaine and try to get rid of that episodic stuff. I'm not saying they won't come back up, but I don't want that to be the through line for the rest of the thing. So
he's announcing that Taco Fish is dead.
No. Taco Fish shall live forever.
So actually, Jeremy, I think you totally missed the question.
Yeah.
I think Gabe and Matt are definitely Mulder and Scully, and some point they're gonna have to make out.
Ooh.
They're currently not in bodies that are related.
I like it.
So it's not even incest. So Mulder, Scully, whatever you guys want to do, that's cool with me.
So are we actually going to be able to use this secret society, or is it going to be like my secret society, where every time I tried to do something, you're just like, nope?
No. I felt like with your secret society, at least initially, I let you do anything you wanted to.
But for a week,
except for like a mini sub.
No, it was. I think through chapter 8, I think you got to kind of do whatever you wanted.
That was like a chapter ago.
Yeah, exactly. But now you guys are in a different position, so we'll see what the Delta Green can offer you. I will say that you're probably going to be like junior members initially.
Dumb. So, are you crafting the good NPCs for me?
How to play Rocky inside of Delta Green, but I won't say anything here.
Yeah, and maybe you and I can talk a little bit behind the curtain.
Oh yeah, totally. I'd love to. I have some really fun ideas.
Meet him on the couch.
The character.
Casting couch. Eric Phillips for Gabe. How much of a sand loss do you think Jeremy will hit Roy for? Seeing any dead body reanimated must be hard, let alone your own.
My sanity is very low as it is, so I feel like we're at a point where I've seen so much that everything needs to be like, well, here's what it would be regular, and here's what it is for Roy, because he's seen so much. So if he's smart, he'll take what it would be and give it that deduction because it just makes sense.
He's gonna make out with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hot guy.
Electroshock therapy, and you'll be back up to normal.
I am waiting for Roy's lobotomy. That's going to be an episode I'm going to write.
Nice.
And it's going to fix me up.
Is that going to make you smarter or dumber?
Yes. All right. John May asks, for the final episode of the chapter, did you play out the scenario prior to doing the recap in the interrogation room? Absolutely not.
No.
Nope. These guys knew nothing.
We got Jeremy basically said, hey, I wrote something for you guys. Check it out in your journal.
Yeah.
And then we just went down the line of people, and we kind of did a whole lot of improv and a whole lot of, well, it all happened so fast.
I think we each had like maybe 4 to 5 sentences. Like it's not even like we were given.
It was like a small paragraph.
Yeah, it was just a
saw the person, and then it was
to get you started.
It was a setup for the scene.
And they could have like reworded the entire thing, but they opted not to
because it was fun not to.
We had to expose your writing style.
And
It just
okay,
all happened so fast.
so Sam Bifford asks, where was Roy's adopted daughter during this last adventure path?
I unadopted her. She's dead.
Jeez, that's 2 kids down.
Yeah, we don't know.
It's a net loss of 1, though.
Exactly. No, we don't know. We don't know exactly what happened to Rose, but I wouldn't write her off just yet.
Ooh.
All I'm going to say is, for the people who have been asking, and it's nobody, but I like to feel important, I named her after Rosita.
Nice. Yeah, Rosita. Chris Parker and I were trying to remember her name, Rosita.
You didn't remember.
I could remember. I can't. Who's the chick?
He did, however, remember the Alamo.
She made it into Simon Gumbel's art.
Who is the chick in Hell House?
Flo, the diner.
Come on back, Jay.
Hey, that's my girl.
That was
the receptionist.
Old
at the
woman.
Sheriff's Department.
Old woman.
Yeah.
What was her name? I can't remember her name.
I don't know.
I just recently watched that too, and I just can't think of it.
I only remember the NPCs that I have like good interactions with, and I really remember those ones.
Bugsy. Petunia.
Okay. Do you guys have any wrap-up questions?
Could you ask Bifford's other important question?
What's that?
When's Carl/Zach going to not be a secondary character and join the cast? I think that's what all of the fans really want to know.
I think it should be a totally separate podcast. That'd be amazing.
Oh,
I said the Carl cast.
Nice. I like.
Yeah, it would be really boring though with just Jeremy and myself.
Would it though?
It'd just be you.
We could do guest slots.
Jeremy just does all his characters.
All right, guys. We're running a little bit over. So, Brian, you got anything else?
I have one last question for Matt.
No, they want less content. We can't go over.
Gabe, stop it.
They'll cut it out anyway.
What is it like to still have a character alive at the end of a scenario?
It's really nice. It's surprisingly not having to start
And
over.
we're out. Everybody have. Oh.
It's nice not having to start over every single chapter. Although there is something to be said for the fact that I really love the character creation process, and I love the whole writing up stories and creating people. So I always do, to a degree, enjoy having to make someone new.
Jeremy,
create people
between scenarios.
Yeah,
I think
between chapters.
I think many years ago, I'm going to show my age for a second. There was a thing about D&D that if you have enough character backgrounds that you wrote to wallpaper a room, that makes you a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure I have like 3 or 4 complete characters just kind of sitting in the wings in case something happens.
I have a backup character that I hope I never use.
Roy Jr.
No, Flex Rumble.
Flex boyo.
Whole family starts with B's.
Yikes. All right, Matt, you got any final questions?
No, I'm good.
I'm good too.
Good. All right, Zach.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you for the awesome shirts.
Of course.
If the crowd hasn't seen it, I have a signed shirt from the entire cast here hanging beside me, which, of course, you can't see on the podcast, but that's awesome. That's going to go on my wall up in my library once I get it finished put together.
You hold on to that. That's going to be about as much as it's going to be worth the same as all those Beanie Babies that are so valuable.
Whatever Goodwill will give me for it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll take
I have to call my friend who's an expert in signed T-shirts. Best I can do is $1.50. I'm sorry.
I have to pay them to take it.
Right.
Nice. Gabe, you got anything else?
Well, everyone else is saying no, so I'll say no.
All right, I got 2 final wrap-ups that don't necessarily regard Chapter 9, so we'll get those out of the way. Matthew Oliveri via Facebook asks, or says, back in Chapter 4, had the crew destroyed the book right after they found it, would that have brought the case to a close? I remember they found My Life pretty early on, and I remember thinking they needed to burn that cursed thing as soon as they found it, but they didn't. Strange event after strange event, and they let the book continue to exist. Was this scripting personal choice based on their character's perspective, or did they just not think to destroy it until the last minute?
Oops.
I feel like I wanted to destroy it, and I was just like, that won't even work.
Yeah.
So I'll just move on.
Yeah, I think it was just we wanted to investigate more to find out what it really could do.
No, so the secret is if we had destroyed it, the podcast would just stop. So we didn't want to do that.
No.
That was like very much into Dan's like super heavy that he gotten over that point. He had gotten over the initial like I don't know, and he was like really deep into the whole let's investigate this and let's look into this. And I think he was kind of partially blinded by that.
Yeah.
Where he wanted to keep digging and he wanted to find the clues and he wanted to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Sam just wanted to have tapas.
Out of curiosity, along those lines, though, Matt, do you guys miss having like an arcanist in the group? Like, I mean, all of you guys are basically investigators or government officials of some sort, whether they be shadowy or not. Mm-hmm. You guys are all very physical worldish.
Yeah.
You know, you have no like spiritualist, arcanist, or anything along those lines. You actually kind of miss having that extra perspective on cases.
I don't believe in that mumbo jumbo.
Well, Jack has a very slight background in voodoo. So maybe that's something I can explore more, maybe to try to switch bodies back or to figure something out.
Ooh.
Oh, here's an idea. We should do like a whole chapter based around Jack's backstory where we go to...
Oh, no, not again.
I'm not driving another truck, you son of a bitch.
Jack reminds me of the Babe.
Shotgun in the face.
Yeah, and
the pig?
To answer a little bit of Matthew's question, yes, if they had destroyed the book, would that have brought a case to the close? Well, maybe, maybe not, because as we know, they summoned any attempt to destroy the book would have resulted in interference from beyond. And so we know that one of the first things was the dimensional shambler that they eventually encountered at the very end when they attempted to destroy the book. And things could have gotten much, much worse after that fact. There was also some spirit stuff that could have happened. So it necessarily wouldn't have brought the case to a close. It might have complicated matters. But I do also think that Dan, who was brought into this case by his old war buddy, right, may have had some misgivings about prematurely destroying the book without knowing the full story, because his friend was also in peril up to a point, up until he killed himself and his kids, which happened much, much later. So I think that also might have played a part in why it wasn't destroyed right off the bat once they found it.
It also kind of plays into the Lovecraftian storyline. I mean, almost all the horrible things in his stories are never destroyed. They're always lost, buried, put someplace very difficult that nobody else will have to experience. Very few things were actually destroyed.
Yep, absolutely.
So it actually kind of worked better.
Yep. Okay, last question, guys. And again, this is an extraneous thing, not related to Chapter 9, but I thought it would be fun. Eric Phillips, you get the last question of the night. For Matt, you get the last answer. Was there any extra material that you had prepared for the Death House scenario that you hoped others would run into? That's our Halloween one that we just did.
Yeah, the Halloween special.
So you don't remember?
No, I did have a couple of like just silly little Easter eggs hiding in some of the catacomb area. But we eventually hit a point where we were like, okay, we really need to wrap this up. So I kind of just tried to speed it through the back third there. So there was some fun little Easter eggs that I had thrown in on my own that weren't normally part of the scenario that would have been kind of fun to encounter, but were totally tangential and wouldn't have affected it in any way, really.
Yeah. Yeah, we ran into, basically our session ran almost 4 hours. And I just finished the second pass of the edit today of the audio. I think I'm going to get this thing down to maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
It was a very the last hour was very frustrating.
It plays well, though. And I mean, the way that we played
the
it,
game
was
itself was fun.
Yeah.
It just got frustrating.
That Matt guy, though.
Yeah, no one likes Matt.
Like, just for reference, one of the things that I've recommended in the past on the podcast is a thing called the Deck of Silly Things, which is like the deck of many things, but it's full of ridiculous items that are legitimately usable in D&D 5e. And in some of the crypts and the catacombs, I had hidden items from the Deck of Silly Things for them to find, just to kind of help them along, but they never ended up finding any of them.
Yep, story of our lives.
Search everything like I should have.
Every room.
The YouTube version of all of your guys' adventures, actually, I would enjoy listening to that more only because even though I'm only like 15 miles from work, it takes me over an hour to get there.
Yeah.
So the longer your podcasts are and the longer your YouTube sessions are, it has more entertainment for me trying to travel to and from work.
Plus, you get to hear all of our crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you actually don't know what I'm really doing when I'm listening to all your voices.
Yeah.
Oh.
He has a Tesla, so no.
Yeah. Yes.
I wish.
Ooh.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Lovecraft
Yeah.
Tapes. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere you download regular podcasts. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review. Meanwhile, you can find us at thelovecrafttapes.com with links to all our hashtag recommendos and social media channels, including Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, and our Discord server, where you can chat with Gabe in real time. But he won't
14
be wearing
hours later.
pants.
He's a chatty guy.
I am just gonna go and sit in the voice channel for 6 days.
You can find me on Twitter at Lovecraft Tapes.
And if anybody wants to hear me pitch character ideas to them, I got a lot of them. You can hit me up on Twitter at The Real Weird Kid.
And you can find me on Twitter at Lovecraft Gabe and marvel at the fact that I am on the same website as Russell Brand.
AsianDate.com?
That's right.
Yeah.
You can find me at Brian Podcast on Twitter, but Discord's easier.
Yeah, the Discord. Do the Discord.
Discord it.
We don't wear pants.
And Zach?
You can't find me any place other than Discord. But I do have to ask, Matt, could you just like find a website and post all of the characters you've ever made so we can go through them and pick your next character?
I'll just start
for
a
you?
character compendium and let everybody vote on where I go next.
I think
a
that'd be way cooler
Discord channel.
than you choosing. Let the audience choose who you're going to play.
Patreon voting on Matt's next character.
I was going to say, hey, if it ever rolls around, that honestly might be a legitimate option considering the number of characters I have sitting around.
Well, until
Jeremy
next
doesn't
time.
like that idea.
I do like that idea. It's fine. Until next time, roll for compendium. All right.
I rolled a 99.
Damn, that's pretty good.